good evening, and welcome to Conversations with Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Alethea Brown, and I'm joined here tonight. We have a special guest for you, Teryl White. Did I mess it up? I knew I was going to mess it up. I did. It's Teryl.
Where's that leave
I
meeting
know.
button right there?
I told him ahead of time. I knew I was going to mess it up. I messed it up. I'm going to let him say it because I said I was going to mess it up. And
Yes,
also,
it's
we had
Teryl White. Teryl.
Teryl White. I knew I was going to mess it up. I gave him fair warning, and he also gave me the exit sign fair warning too. And I am joined here again with our panel of co-hosts. We have Julie. How you doing tonight, Julie?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Logan, founder and CEO of Popcorn Heaven, Steel Creek, Charlotte, North Carolina.
And Chanel.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Chanel Varner, CEO of Moonglade Travel.
Tonight's show is centered around Teryl. Thumbs up on that one.
Yes.
The conversation we're going to have is Black progress. How far have we come? How much further do we need to go? And so tonight we want to introduce to you Teryl. He is a social entrepreneur, and I wanted to point that out because we've discussed that before, the different types of entrepreneurs that you can be. And so he falls under the category of a social entrepreneur. Could you give us information about your organization so they get an understanding of how it relates to tonight's topic?
Absolutely. So our organization kind of has an eponymous title to tonight's title for this episode. Our organization is the Center for Black Progress Incorporated, which is a nonprofit founded last year during the pandemic, around the time of George Floyd murders and protests. And we actually were founded right before that. So we could talk about that more later on in the episode. But the goal of our organization is the complete uplift of Black lives worldwide. And we've identified 12 obstacles to Black progress, and we center training, leadership, education, and grassroots action around these 12 obstacles to provide solutions to those greatest issues that hamper Black life, in order to try to provide remedies that will last on a more lasting scale, rather than the things that we've seen in the past.
Thank you for that. Chanel, I know you had a couple questions about that. I'm gonna let you go ahead and start.
Carol, first tell us what those 12 obstacles are, and then I think my question will follow
Okay.
Absolutely.
specifically to what one of those are.
All right, in no particular order, they are unity, youth, family, economics, politics, opportunity and resources, media, crime, health, education, identity, and criminalization.
Cool. So two of them that I want to touch on is the opportunities and resources. I think we've talked specifically about social capital, specifically in anyone's world. But what that is, to me, in my opinion, is who you know. What resources and connections do you have, or do we have as entrepreneurs to close the deals, to get those large contracts, to get those large corporations backing us as entrepreneurs, or just in general. You know, maybe I'm a high school senior and I'm looking to get into Harvard, but I don't know anyone who's been to Harvard. I don't know anybody who has connections to Harvard. But to be able to have, maybe my neighbor's sister is a, I don't know, professor at Harvard. And anyway, it's knowing people in those specific circles or areas that you are trying to get into. So I think that, and I may be on this along the lines of that, opportunity and resources is that social capital, kind of who you know or who knows you. I think that's brilliant. And it is a major challenge that we face as Black and Brown people. So kudos to you for that being one of your 12 points. One that stuck out to me when I was researching more about your organization and in these 12 obstacles was identity. Tell me a little bit more about what you see. What does that look like to you? What have you seen in your findings? And how do we address this identity obstacle?
Absolutely. So when we talk about identity, that can mean a lot of different things to different people, right? So everything, the beauty of, we call it CBP for short, Center for Black Progress. So the beauty of CBP is that it was founded to be unapologetically like unfettered access to Blackness, centering Blackness. Because in our society, we do a lot of buzzwords. We do a lot of like hodgepodge meshing things in with other groups. And we kind of let other people come up under the banner of our flag, so to speak. And a lot of potential gains or potential progress that we might be able to make, it gets watered down. And the nature of Blackness in this country and in this world is such that whenever we do find ourselves intersecting with other identities, whether it be gender, whether it be sexual identity orientation, we end up getting the crumbs, what Jamaicans call the what left. You get whatever's left, right? You get everything trickles down to you last, because while you do intersect with some of these other areas, your Blackness still repels people. Your Blackness still has a stigma to it. So when we don't prioritize our Blackness first, that's what we have seen history tell us over and over again. Not to say that allying with other people with diverse groups, people who maybe share some common goals is bad, but there's just a certain approach that we need. So not to go off on a tangent, when we talk about identity in a purely Black context, that means, do you know who you are? Do you know anything about yourself personally? Do you know anything about yourself as a group? Because there's such a thing as self-esteem, but there's also such a thing as group esteem. And a lot of the decisions and actions that people make in today's society are based a lot of times off of a lack of group esteem. When you talk about people saying, oh, you don't like yourself or you hate yourself, most people won't say that, but do you think lowly of people that look like you? Do you play into some stereotypes? Do you have some of the stereotypes yourself? And Blackness, as I was mentioning, is such that it's been so vilified over the centuries. I mean, maybe even beyond that. In the media, that's another one of the obstacle areas. But there's a constant mechanism that's constantly churning and burning this idea into our head that Black is less than, that Black is inferior, that Black is evil. I mean, literally, Black versus white, those terms are imaginary. Nope, none of us on this call is actually the color Black, right? But that's the term that we've all been stuck with. So there's a lot of psychological warfare that goes along with the term Blackness, and that all spills over into your identity. So we put this as one of the obstacles that we need to overcome, because first of all, of course, we know as formerly enslaved people were brought to this country, there was an intentional effort to erase our heritage, erase our language, erase our customs. And these are the things that groups that come to the US now for a better way of life, those are the things that bind them together. Those are the things we talked about, that social capital, Chanel. Those are the things that provide you social capital, because you can come over, you can find a community where you belong, common ties, your language, your culture, your food. But Black people, we've had a lot of that scattered to the winds, and then assimilation forced on us in the same vein. So it's just wreaked havoc with the idea that we have of ourselves and of each other, and what we think we can even achieve or aspire to become. I hope that answer. I know it's a little long-winded there.
I think it's spot on. Yeah, I can relate on several several avenues. One, you always hear, not always, but sometimes I would hear like, oh, you're talking white. And I'm like, what is that? No, it's professional. There's a difference. Don't get it twisted. Or, I have young girls, and for a while, she's 11 now, but she would come home at 3 and 4 and said that she wanted to be white, or she wanted white dolls. And I'm like, what? Your Black is beautiful, brown skin girl all day, every day, but feeding into that, even as children, that this is beautiful, you are unique, you are different. So I'm so glad to hear that this is one of the areas that you are addressing, because it's critical across the board. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
The identity thing kind of hit me too, because we come in all different unique colors all the time. And what my daughter, everyone thinks she's mixed of some sort. So they take her Blackness away from her constantly, and it drives her absolutely crazy. So what you said, I know she can identify with, because she has that struggle from kindergarten all the way up into her career now, is no one wants to accept her for who she is. They want to label her as something else. So definitely that one. Julie?
All right, let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Uh-oh.
No, seriously. So the two that stood out to me is unity and media. And it's this group, you know, our topics are centered around entrepreneurship. Can you talk to us, Teryl, about what unity means from a holistic perspective, from your organization's perspective, and then can you narrow it down possibly to what that may mean for an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur who may be listening to this podcast? So, for example, we talk about unity all the time, about our communities coming to our community, trying to come together as entrepreneurs, right? There's so much more that we can do together and grow, right? But that still seems to be a challenge in our community for some reason. So one, can you talk about it holistically from your organization? And then if you can, narrow it down from an entrepreneur perspective.
Absolutely. So, and I'll go ahead and say that unity is, we have an internal document called the Blueprint to Black Progress. And it basically is our guiding document.
He froze up a little bit, so we lost his audio and his video feed. We'll give him a couple seconds so he can adjust it. Unless the storm hit him.